Hi, everybody. This is Noelle from Petitti Garden Centers, and we're here at our store in Oakwood Village, Ohio. And we are going to do a spotlight on yarrow. And even our perennial manager here, Stella, was like, how have you not talked about yarrow yet? And I don't know how we've missed it all of these times we've done spotlights, but we're doing it now, and we're super excited to feature yarrow today. Yarrow is also known as Achillea, Achillea millefolium, and Achillea actually comes from it is in regards to Achilles, believe it or not, and it's fabled as Achilles used to use this plant to heal wounds. So there you go. Medicinally, I don't think that is correct, but just so you know, it is a story and it is actually named after Achilles. So Achillea is going to be that botanical name. Millefolium is actually if you think about it, million leaved. So if you look at this plant really close up, there are lots and lots of cleanly dissected leaves. So it's a lot of little leaflets there on this plant. And there you go. You have millefolium. So there's your Greek lesson for today. As far as the plant is concerned, Echolea, there's about 85 species out there, so it is a large plant family. It is in the aster or composite family of plants, so it is related to, let's say, like a daisy, okay? It is a wonderful plant to grow for us in Northeast Ohio because not only is it cold hardy, extremely cold hardy, in fact, down to about -30 degrees, but it also grows in very tough conditions, poor soil conditions. So we'll talk about that as well. Okay, this plant itself is a true perennial for us. It will return 3 or more years in the garden, okay? It does truly love those full, hot, sunny conditions. So we're talking 6 or more hours of direct sunlight. That's where it likes to be. The key with its soil conditions is that it actually likes sort of lean soil. And when I say lean, not quite poor soil conditions, but well drained, and it doesn't need a ton of amended organic matter in the soil. It can be slightly nutrient deficient, haha. And so, as long as it's well drained or slightly on the drier side, these plants will do really well without a lot of fuss. So that is really good. Just make sure, since we have a lot of clay soil conditions here in Northeast Ohio, make sure again it is in a well-drained area, maybe more raised up, maybe more rocky. That will help with the drainage, okay? As far as Yarrow is concerned, is water. It's always first year, and we always talk about getting these plants well established their first year. So we talk about 1 inch of water 1 time per week, thorough, deep watering. With yarrow, it's really important to water at the base of the plant, and I'd really suggest that for most plant material when you're getting them established. If you can water at the base, it's always going to alleviate other issues that might occur with overhead watering, things like powdery mildew disease, which yarrow can get occasionally if it is overhead watered. It is a very, very rare occurrence, or I should say rare to occasional occurrence, but it does happen. They can get rust and things too with overhead watering, so just be aware of that. Try to get the water towards the base of the plant. Here's the thing, if we overwater yarrow, you will also get stem rot or crown rot. So be aware of that. Again, they like that well-drained, drier soil condition out there. And for rock gardens, meadow gardens, those types of areas and raised beds, they do really, really well, okay? So we covered sun, soil, and watering. For fertilization, honestly, at the time of planting, a little bit of biotone in the hole would be great to establish those root systems quickly. And then move on to your plant tone in the springtime. and then Osmocote midsummer. Honestly, if you forget the Osmocote application, not a problem with these guys. Again, less is more as far as nutrition is concerned, okay? When we move on to this plant as far as maintenance, it is what we consider a medium maintenance plant. And as we get newer varieties out there, the maintenance level goes down a bit. But the reason being, as far as medium maintenance is concerned, it really has to do with the pruning of this plant. And it is a repeat bloomer. It will continue to produce new buds, new flowers for you. But if you want to keep it going and staying really active, you really do want to make sure that you're pruning. So I'm going to show you really quick what I'm talking about with this plant. Yarrow is a wonderful cut flower. So we can take entire stems and go right down to the base and cut them. And if my pruners would, here we go. So I'm going to take this pink stem of yarrow, go all the way down, and I'm going to cut it down deep into the foliage, okay? So I'm going to make that cut. So we can take this entire growing stem, we can enjoy it as a fresh cut flower. We can also let it dry in the vase, believe it or not, let that water evaporate, and this plant will dry just like that. The color might fade a little bit as it dries, but other than that, this plant makes an excellent, excellent cut and dried flower, okay? With other thing that we can do with yarrow is we can go through and deadhead the plant as well. So as you're going through, if you find some of the stems have side shoots, and I was gonna try to find one that kind of has a side shoot here. So there are side shoots that haven't quite developed. You can go ahead and you can remove the spent flowers, avoiding the side shoot and cutting there as well, okay? Obviously, removing the entire stem is a nice clean way of doing that. Some of the yarrow varieties will have different kind of side nodes or side shoots, so it just kind of depends, but you can go through and deadhead as you go, okay? This plant also, honestly, 75% of the flowers and stems are bloomed out. You can go ahead and cut the plant back to its basal foliage, all of the stems, and it will fill out and continue to bloom for you as well. And it usually takes about 3 or 4 weeks to really start to push new buds and new blooms, but it works very, very nicely. There is a little hint here with pruning this plant. In spring, as you see the new growth develop, and as those flowers are just starting to, you can see the flower buds, they're nice and tight and green. You can actually cut those stems in half if you wish, and then the plant will branch some more. It will delay blooming, but it will give you a nice, compact, sturdy plant. So again, lots of pruning techniques with yarrow. It just depends on how you want it to grow. We kind of do that technique with perennial flowering hibiscus, large panicle hydrangeas, those types of things too. We do that spring pruning to kind of get them to branch more, be a little bit more compact, delay the flowering, but the flowering is definitely more, okay? So pruning is something to consider here. And again, just keeping your eyes out for some of the pests, okay? Again, it's occasional disease issues. We rarely see deer browsing, rabbit browsing. It just really doesn't happen for this plant. The foliage is a very aromatic and almost has a spicy scent to it. So that's really great. This is an excellent pollinator attractor. Again, it's in the aster family or composite family. So you have a lot of nectar, a lot of pollen that these plants are producing, and of course, attracting those pollinators with. Mostly butterfly and bee here. We don't see a lot of hummingbirds around this one, but again, really, really nice in the composite family. As we move into more attributes, these plants couldn't be better again with their heat, humidity, and drought tolerance. Okay. So when you plant them with other heat, humidity, and drought tolerant plants, things like Russian sage, other daisies, veronica or speedwell, they do really, really nicely. Obviously, the asters, again, being in that family, they do really well together. So do think about that when you're combining them in a sunny border or cottage garden. That's where they really do best, and they complement a lot of different other perennial plants that grow really well for us out here. I was mentioning how cold hardy they are. So anywhere from zone 3 to zone 9. I will say in my research that the more south you are getting into those warmer climates, they tend to melt and not do as well in the heat and humidity. But for us in Northeast Ohio, we're around zone 6 here. We really appreciate them through the summer. They're repeat blooming, they're long blooming, they're cut flower power. So it's a really great plant for us. Let's talk about varieties here. And I'm going to show you one of the oldest ones. This is actually Moonshine over here. Moonshine was developed in the 1950s by Alan Bloom. It is a hybrid, but what we love about it is its compact size. It's usually only about 1.5 to 2 foot tall. It has this very, very thick, fuzzy gray foliage. It is one of the standouts out in the garden. And really, that silvery foliage really, really is very showy out there. It's not quite as dissected leaf as some of the other varieties, but again, is really sturdy, really nice. Moonshine does have sort of a lighter yellow color. It's not quite gold, but it really is stunning out there in the landscape. Very, very showy. So do look for Moonshine. The next variety that I'm going to talk about is right next to Moonshine, and it looks very similar, but this one's called Sassy Summer Lemon. The Sassy series, you might see Sassy's out there. Sassy's are very, very full, very dense plants, a little bit more light green color in the foliage there, a little bit taller than what you're going to find with Moonshine. And the stems are nice and sturdy, should stay upright, really fill in for you. Now, I forgot, and I mentioned it because of Sassy. Sassy is a large clump, and it'll really get established in about 2 to 3 years in the garden. It really fills out to probably 2.5, 3 foot wide. So it's a nice sizable plant. With Sassy, what you find is the kind of wild millefolium types of yarrow, they can be fairly aggressive in the garden. The hybrid varieties are less aggressive in the garden, but I do want you to be aware that some of these varieties, you may find that they have a very, very kind of tough rhizome system. So they start to move out and develop very nice colonies or clumps to them. Most of the hybrid varieties don't produce the seed that we used to see in some of the older varieties, but it's not uncommon. You might see that you'll get a little bit of seeding around the plant. So just be aware of that. As far as aggressiveness is concerned, yeah, some of the older varieties were definitely thought to be aggressive. They just are not as aggressive growing in the garden as they used to be. So just be aware of that, that some of the older varieties can be, can really fill out an area and move into another area. Here's another thing. You can dig and divide these anytime you want to within 2, 3 years of establishment or more. They really can be moved very, very easily and will do very nicely for you dividing them. So they're midsummer bloomers, and well, I should say early summer, midsummer through the summer. So honestly, you can divide them in the spring or the fall. It won't bother this plant at all. Again, it's one of those tough perennial plants for you. So talking about Sassy again, nice, very, very thorough, full clump of that plant. The next two that I wanted to talk to are in the Tutti Frutti series, and they are Apricot Delight. So you see that nice sort of soft, peachy orange color, maybe sometimes a pinky salmon tone will be taken on. And then also this one. This is pomegranate, and it's one of those beautiful kind of magenta reds. Really, really gorgeous. Tutti Frutti series is a nice full series, sort of V-shaped habit on that. Again, maybe about, I'd say about 18 inches tall, maybe 18 to 24 inches tall. You can tell very dense foliage, nice strong stems. And I wanted to mention that as well because in the past, yarrows, if you put them out in a too windy of an area or an area that gets a lot of storms, rainstorms and things, they can flatten out. Newer varieties, again, tend to fill out and be a little bit stronger for you. So just be aware of that. But it's a good consideration when you are growing them. So if it's in a real windy place, it might flatten out the stems or bend the stems. Okay, so be aware of that. Tutti Frutti and pomegranate, very full, thick stems here, but they can get tangled up every once in a while. So again, sometimes cutting them back does help with that growth and development. Look at all the buds on pomegranate. My gosh, this is really a gorgeous variety, beautiful color. And again, these plants came from or were bred from an older variety called summer pastels. And summer pastels was really beautiful. We used to grow it many years ago. And it came and it would have all these different colors. So they selected the different colors out of summer pastels and developed these two varieties. So apricot delight and pomegranate. The next ones that I wanted to mention are from the Seduction series, and there is Saucy Seduction, which is this pink one here, and then there's Strawberry Seduction, which is this red with the yellow centers here. And these, again, are just a little bit more improved yarrows. Again, thicker stems, fuller, denser habits. Again, right around that 18 to 24-inch mark. Really, really nice, really full, just more color selection. So as far as yarrows are concerned, they can add a lot of color to that garden. And then look beyond with the Russian sage, the daisies, the Shasta daisies, whites and yellows, they look absolutely gorgeous with. The flowering Veronica, those spiky flowers next to the yarrow are really, really gorgeous. And even your asters here, and I'm sorry, I'm disturbing some bees, but they are really moving through this area and they look really, really gorgeous together. So grow some yarrow, full sun conditions, kind of poor but well-drained soil conditions. They don't need a lot of nutrition, a lot of amended soil, just well-drained, drier conditions is really what they're looking for. Make sure you cut and use them as a fresh cut flower or dried flower. They really do have excellent deer and rabbit resistance out there too, and they're really easy to grow for us. So enjoy yarrow.